Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this amazing episode. I am so excited to share this amazing woman, sister, writer, and astrologer, Melanie Dufty. She is the writer of I Am Lilith, and honestly, it's an excellent book. I've been reading it, and it's like, didn't even want to put it down, even though it was time to go to bed, honestly. But welcome to this space, Melanie. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so glad to hear that you're loving the book too. Thank you.
Yeah, honestly, like I was telling you, like I have been telling you, the way that you're writing, like your writing just comes through and it's just like takes you so deep into the story. Like I was like literally getting lost in that world and is so intrigued by what will happen next that I was like, wow, this must be shared. So I'm glad that you're here and sharing this amazing book with us.
Me too.
Yeah. So this book, I Am Lilith, I honestly believe the books are channeled through us, and there are beings, there are beings, live beings that just choose us to come through for a specific purpose. So would you tell us a little bit of how this book, I Am Lilith, came about? And then maybe just like a little thing without really going into what the whole thing goes into, of like what the book really comes through and is about.
Sure. Well, I've been, for many years, like trying to understand light and dark, I guess, and make sense of why the world is like it is when we're taught and we inherently feel that there is only love. And so that was a big journey. But to sum that up in very short words, I discovered, or I came across, this astrological model that just made so much sense to me in 2012, that shows how our galaxy moves in our specific cycles. Yeah. And that it's, in order to create, you have to have contrast, and that, the feminine and masculine as a part of that. One sort of separates we never can separate, we're one, but we appear to sort of separate. So the feminine and masculine can or have the experience of sort of separating, and this model explained it. And it was all part of this my kind of devastation in the past about the way the feminine had been treated by the masculine, and I felt very devastated and enraged about that. And then through these years of understanding, as an astrologer myself, understanding these movements, I just wanted to share that with it through a story. And then I was very attracted to Lilith, and I discovered that Lilith and Adam, because Lilith is part of the Adam and Eve story, for anyone who doesn't know the mythology of Lilith, but she left Adam when he said that she was inferior to him and that she must go beneath him. And I saw that in Bible studies back to that era, it was 6,000 years ago, which was exactly when we had the turning point from the feminine being on top in this big galactic model to the masculine being on top. And I was like, wow. Oh my God. It was like, an amazing thing. So the book isn't biblical at all. It's much more radical than that, but it's still using, it's still using, that as an affirmation to me, that it was the Lilith story shows us exactly how this big galactic cycle works, and it's all about coming back to unity, and that there are destined times, and it's all about our alignment with the center of our galaxy, the Galactic Heart. Some say it's a black hole, but I call it the Galactic Heart, as do many.
I love that. Yeah.
So it's actually about an astronomical as well as with astrological meaning, alignment, and then turning away from the unity of that Galactic Heart back and experiencing separation, including between the feminine and masculine. And it's at this point in that cycle that we're due to reunite, having kind of gone our separate ways. It gives me goosebumps even speaking about it now. So the book is a novel, as you know. It's like a kind of a metaphysical fantasy, and pretty rollicking, but it's telling you that the basic story of the cycle that we're in and how perfect it is, and that the time is now for us to reunite, and the wind is at our backs to do so.
Wow. Wow, that's so powerful. It's almost like, okay, we need a moment to sit with all these things you just shared.
I know, it's a lot. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to say.
But it's really
Yeah.
wonderful that it's like in the sky, and it's like really
Mhm.
showing us that too, like the separation and the union and all those kinds of things. And I'm sure, also having a female experience, I definitely had rage towards what has been happening to the feminine, and then part of my awakening was also releasing that out of my lineage, which came out of my body. And I felt like what was done to women, as in like cutting their throats, burning them alive, cutting their wrist, whatever, because we were seen as witches and our power was like too much or something. And so I would love to tap into that, because I'm sure like so many of the listeners will really resonate with that anger. So is that really like anger that like brought that curiosity, or just wanted to like express itself? Like what happened with that anger inside of you?
Yeah, my anger was, I as I learnt more about Lilith and the archetype of Lilith, she's known for her rage, absolute rage. She's known as a man hater, for lopping off penises, for killing babies. And that's her in her demonic form. But of course, nothing is truly that's not the truth of any energy. The truth is the wholeness and the light. But within that, the extremities of the dark and the light are equal to each other. So my rage, about how the feminine had been treated, as I learned more about Lilith, I realized that it was the same energy, like an energy pattern that's in the feminine, about what's happened over the last 6,000 years in this cycle that I'm explaining of the galactic movements. It's been 6,000 years of the patriarchy, and preceding that was 6,000 years of the matriarchy. And the book of Lilith is the turning point from the feminine to the masculine on top. So the rage, it's there, and it needs to be worked with and integrated. And it's like a righteous rage or a sacred rage when used properly, because we really need it to sort of shatter some of those old paradigms and
For sure.
the places within us that are locked and repressed and exiled and hated and feared. And that dark feminine energy, but not dark as in shadow, but Lilith is a dark feminine energy. So I mean the beauty of the dark feminine, the power, the sensuality, the primal power of creation, that's the true Lilith energy. But it has been repressed in us. It's like the archetype of Eve, which is the more palatable and the compliant and the docile and all of that archetype is in us as well. And that's been the one that's been celebrated and encouraged for the most part in women. But beneath that is the Lilith energy, I believe, in every single person, not just women, but certainly it's strong in women. And there is sort of a layer of rage that needs to be worked through with the Lilith energy, I believe. And I certainly experienced it. I was pretty scary.
Yeah.
But I do not feel that rage anymore. I really came to peace with the perfection, and that's what the book is about, of the changing cycles, and that Lilith actually made a sacrifice in order to turn the wheel towards the destined 6,000 years of the masculine having a stronger presence. It's like they had to come apart in that separation in order to create and come back together. And when they come back together, they're so evolved through the experience of separation. The truth is we never were separate, but we have experienced that. It's pretty hard to deny that. The feminine and masculine in our human experience.
Sure. And I mean, and that really happens also within us, not just in like the outside world, like what I believe it's enlightenment, like that separation of the energies and just being in opposite extremes, maybe one extreme for a long time, and then in moving to the other extreme to actually find the centeredness and the balance of that, the union of those two energies. And
exactly. That's what I believe it is too. And that this is a beautiful divine creation mechanism for us to play with and create and expand energy through the contrast, but and then we bring it all back together, and that time is now. That time is now for a major shift into unity for every soul that's hearing and, you know, that call. It is here for us now, and we always could have done it, because, you know, we've had you know, masters through the eons who have been able to unify, but this is like a time when a gateway is open for many more, and that we do it as a, you know, a large collective, and it's just right on cosmic time. For
sure. Right on cosmic time. Wow, that's powerful. So let's say that again. Right on cosmic time.
Wow. It's a good phrase, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. So it's just easier for us now, to do that, because it's destined. And for those who aren't ready yet to do that, they're still experiencing and learning through separation. That's totally chill. Like the cycles continue within cycles, but there is a significant window open right now. I can hear my cat meowing too, so
he's just agreeing with you.
He's agreeing with me. He's special.
Oh, cats are so special. I love them. They're so wise too, you know. It's such a big healers. Oh my gosh,
they're amazing. I adore them. Absolutely.
They're so good. Oh my gosh, I love this, because, you know, I've been seeing a lot of women that I follow on social media to actually cut their hairs. Like some sister here from Lawrence, she had dreadlocks for, I think, like 10 years or something, and she recently just cut them to shed the old.
Wow.
And then I've been hearing so many like friends saying, like, I've been just seeing so many women just cutting their hairs and like coming back into their power, because it's again, you know, this thing or this story that like a woman, it looks good with the long hair and just pretty hair, and if you shave something off or you take it off, it's more masculine, so then therefore she's not being herself. And it's just, you know, the story is like I created because of how one chooses to express itself.
I completely agree. And it's funny, you haven't gotten to that part in the book yet, but there is quite a few statements made about that, and even the words you just said, like keeping your hair pretty and neat, and you know, and what that signifies and all of that. So I think the women expressing themselves, including through their hair, or, you know, all sorts of ways, is so significant. And it's really vibing, isn't it? It's not just I'm making a statement with my hair. There's something really deep running in that. Yeah.
And honestly, when I cut this part of my hair, like I feel more feminine. And I feel more powerful in me, like very balanced. So of course I'm not the only one, like we were just talking, that many women out there are expressing themselves through their hair, and there's that balance within ours, you know, saying like, this is who I am, this is how I express myself, this is like my masculine and my energy and my feminine energy coming through, and that's it.
Absolutely. And, you know, I absolutely, there's no power without that unity, because the unity is the feminine masculine is the truth, and that's where the power is. And, you know, it's interesting with the Lilith energy that this is just how I see it, but if you wanted to like put the feminine into two basic archetypes, and there are many languages for it, but in this one you could say Lilith, there's the Lilith and the Eve archetype, and in the light there, you know, the Eve archetype is extremely yin, extremely soft feminine, and the Lilith energy is the more yang or masculine part of the feminine, but they can't be the whole woman. You can't be the whole woman without them balanced, aligned and integrated. And in one moment you might be more Eve if you're being very, very soft, and then more Lilith, and in quite a fluid dynamic as is the feminine. But so I do see that and explain that towards the end of the book, that Lilith is that part of the feminine that carries the masculine, and without that the feminine hasn't been whole. So it's like within the feminine and masculine is the feminine and masculine to infinity, you know, like within each expression is both, but there's been an imbalance, but that imbalance had creative purpose It hasn't been wrong. It's been perfect. It's just in the current density of consciousness, it has expressed itself in some pretty full-on dense ways, as we know, but and yet it still has sacred purpose to evolve consciousness.
For sure.
It's just time to get back to balance now. We're done. We've learned everything we can. We're done. We don't need to do more.
We are so done. We're so done. Oh my gosh, yes. This book is full of wisdom. Oh my Lord, full of wisdom. What I really like about the book also is that it really put the perspective, you know? So of course, living my experience, I've just saw how the masculine was in all this power and the feminine was just kind of like being abused, or it was just like thrown around, really, like especially in my family. It's a very like father guided family, and the power of the masculine, and the feminine is very submissive. And even if she wants to do something, it's like, can I do this? And you know, like just going a little like this. But so in the book, it like seeing the opposite totally guided me to have more compassion, not only for us as having the female experience, but also for males, because then it's something that we haven't witnessed with our eyes in this experience, you know? So like to put them in the position that we have been is like, holy smokes, like, wow.
Yeah, it really turns it on its head. And that's, really deliberately did that. So these women, the basic, the epiphany that I had before I wrote the book was that the feminine is just as, can be absolutely just as shadowy and cruel as the masculine. Like, why would the masculine be more so? It's like, we are one, we're actually one. And within that, you know, the expressions of shadow or light are just as polarized and just as extreme. So in the book, it's a tyrannical female ruled world, as you know, and they are terrible to men. They have no honor for them. They don't even acknowledge that their semen creates babies. They say that only women create babies, and that men's, this is pretty, I know it's kind of funny, but that men's semen is just like their an imitation of sacred breast milk, and it has no use, and it's like really lame, and that it doesn't, that they have no creative potency whatsoever, and they're cruel to them, as you know. And and that's part of this really flipping on its head. It's also very interesting, I think, to read, and it was certainly interesting to write, like to imagine what does a female ruled world that's a bit tyrannical through to very tyrannical look like, and how do they treat men? And it's so unheard of, isn't it? Like, they scoff at them having logic, they scoff that they have no wisdom to offer, they have no purpose except as really workers or bedmates when it suited the women. And it was all about the women's sexuality, their reverence for their fertility, reverence for their creativity, their sensuality. It's kind of fun to read as well, but it does also bring that compassion. I certainly felt, wanted to just really use it to show that.
It's definitely very fun to read. I have to say that. I totally recommend this book. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. And at times I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what's next? Getting really excited for what was to come. So well written, honestly. Thank you for given this gift to all of us through a book. Is amazing.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm so excited to share all of that through the book, and to have it read is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So can we know a little bit more about Melanie? So what is Melanie's story prior to this book? Did the book change anything in you, or how did it really come about?
Okay. Well, up until I guess for the first 33 years of my life, I was like a really different person. I am a Gemini, so we do tend to run a couple of different personalities. But I was really mainstream, and I was really into corporate climbing and, you know, all of that. And that's cool. But I just completely changed when I had my first son, completely changed and became like overnight. Before that, I didn't even believe in the soul, nothing. It's just such an incredible change. And then I started to look into astrology and energy work, meditation, and just became, really fascinated with spiritual studies and trying to understand like the nature of light, dark, to reconcile why so many bad things happen and what the meaning of life is and all of that. So through that I became an astrologer myself, and a big meditator. And it was through that kind of journey of understanding what is the purpose of my soul. And then it expanded out to what is the purpose, because it starts, I think, usually, or it did for me, with a self-study of like trying to find meaning. My life felt meaningless. So, and then I'd get more and more questions open up the more I looked at it. And it was through that I, found Lilith, and then started to expand a lot out from my personal journey to what is the purpose of life. And why is there light and dark? And it was through that I came to understand that. And then I just really wanted to express it, and thought, what's the most fun, engaging, alive, kind of cool, magical way that I could do it? And I thought it's through a novel, not through a non-fiction thing. I just wanted to have, and that's so feminine too, isn't it? Like to bring in that creative flow and the luscious sensuality and sexuality and the beautiful food and the beautiful gems and smells and nature and animals and all of that. It's also feminine, with the information being more left-brained, more masculine, I suppose. So it has, it's been a big turning point doing, writing the book, because it pulled together what was, I don't know how many years of, so much external, like left brain study, and so much meditation and internal feminine journeying. And it sort of all brought together everything that I've learned.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. I mean, I feel that for me too as well, it was first the self-study, understanding like my being, myself, and then it evolving into something bigger, because I feel that we're a little piece of something bigger. So we first like study the little tiny piece that we are, and then continues to expand and just continues to evolve,
Exactly.
I'm really
because we're
curious.
all one, aren't we?
We are.
We're all doing the same basic story, which is to experience creation.
Yes.
To create, and to do that we need contrast. And we've explored all the nuances of how hectic it can get.
For sure.
And we're ready for some unity again now. It's like we've returned home after, like, it's like real hero's story. We've gone out, we've left home, we've separated from the truth in order to explore consciousness. And now it's like, well, personally, I'm done. I'm ready for unity again.
The hero's journey, for sure. And so like, is the book, I'm really curious about this, is the book in a way showing your own story in your union?
I think so. I know it is. It is. It is. It's like a creative expression of my own story and the nuances, because as I just said just before you asked that we are one, and we've all got the same basic story, because that's the story of creation. And within the story of creation, to create, you have to have those contrasting energies. So it's like, well, what is each soul's story? How did they create with that? How did they explore those two contrasting forces of creation, the yin and the yang, and the feminine, masculine? And so I don't know how literally it's my story, but the energy patterns of the story, I feel like they're mine, and I feel like they're also universal.
For sure.
Within everyone as well.
Because I definitely feel that if one does the work in words and releases something, it gets also released from all of us. Because we are the same life force energy. It's just being expressed differently and it's seen differently through the physical body, because then we come from what I like to call portals, the portal of your lineage that has different instincts, they have like different ways of seeing life and expressing themselves to somebody else's portal. And so through that, we come into individuality, but then also as we express it and tune in more into it, then we get into the whole thing of just being the same.
Wow, that's so powerful when you say that, through my body, that we come from different portals, and within those portals we have kind of like an energy pattern of a story or a background. Is that what you were saying? And yeah, and that's part of that it's a cliche, but the greater tapestry of all of it. But that's just totally vibing. I'm gonna think about that more, because when you said, is this story something from my soul, and it's like, and then when you said that, it sort of brings it together. It's like, it's a certain pattern of the story that my element within the one is creating or has. That's really fascinating. I want to hear more about that.
It really is. I mean, I love how through my experience, that's what it has been shown to me, that I'm just like this portal, and then the consciousness chose to have this personal experience in order through a personal portal that is my family. They have like their own energy and their own stories to experience itself and to go back to itself, meaning, the wholeness of everything. And so I find it so fascinating when I get to know people, and then I get to know their family, to really watch, the instincts of the family, and what things are the same from the person that I know with their parents, and I do this with my boyfriend too. And I find it so fascinating, and I understand him more when I'm watching, and when I'm also talking to his parents, and I'm just like, oh, okay, wow, this is where that kind of comes from. And then the same thing, coming from like the grandparents and great grandparents, and like, I mean, there's so much that passes through, and I really do believe that we are portals. And this is why, like, tuning in into our own energy can really help us to understand what is really us and what is not. Yeah,
that's amazing. I agree with that. It's almost like a penny drop. It's like we have the opportunity to clarify the story that's been building for eons. There's something in that, and I feel like that's so true. And that's also part of why I love astrology and personal astrology. Like, to look at, it's so fascinating to look at the natal life plan, and you can see, look at the ancestry and the family, and just the patterns of energy that the soul is here to experience and play with. And I'm so interested to think more about how that connects. I mean, I already know that we have ancestral patterns, but how it connects to that, almost, how they say some people are circuit breakers, or they come in through an ancestral pattern to really make a change. And it's almost like, when you're ready to, like, it's a wrap, like, to write the story.
Please, like, let me know when you get into all of that, because I love to hear it. For sure.
It's fascinating.
When
I talk to you, I get lots of more ideas. So thank you.
Of course. I've been like really paying a little attention to both like lineages, and to see the patterns of each that I have had, and also to understand them more, because I see them as also divine beings finding their way back home, and before, of course, I was just very like, why are you doing this to me? I'm blaming them for something. And now this is really fascinating to see, as that evolution of consciousness within itself, to go back to what it is, really.
Amazing. And how it's bringing us home, what you just said. That's so powerful. So it's there. The book is kind of like an expression written down in words of one of those. Long and quite vast. Which they all are. It's just that I think this brings it, like, the vastness into a story, and puts it down into words, which kind of grounds it. Like a completion. It's kind of like a completion.
For sure. And I really love that you also tied astrology with it, like when they're like celebrating for the full moon and all this kind of celebrations they have. So you also bring that part of your own puzzle into it. And I would really love to hear how your life has changed after you began to learn and practice astrology.
Yeah, well, I first had an astrology reading just as a client. I heard there was a good astrologer in South Africa, and we had a phone call because it was so long ago that there wasn't like a Zoom or anything. And I was already quite awake and realized that we had a soul and a soul purpose. So I was already sort of on board with that. But she blew me away with what she said from looking at my astrology, because it was just so accurate. And after that, I started to just read more and study my own chart more, and I learned a lot. And then friends started to ask me, and so from there, and then I studied, and I got an amazing teacher, and I became qualified and practicing, and I've been practicing for the last 10 years. Wow. So it's just so cool. It's so cool. It's like, it's just a story. It's like a story of patterns and energy patterns, and and it's so affirming, because the person, having the reading, they already know it, or most of the time they know it, and it's just like a beautiful, like affirming, kind of joyous and like so mystical, because you go, wow, there is such a plan. There is such a plan to why I've had those issues, and and also
exactly.
There's so much meaning. It was meant to be, and including from very devastating things that have happened to people, like to look at through to a lighter experience of what their soul's moving towards, and how it gives people more understanding and belief that they are here to be an amazing expressor. They are here to have an incredible home and family, even though a part of them feels like they have to be out in the corporate career. Like, that's an energy pattern. I just worked with someone with last week, and she just was so pulled towards thinking she had to live a certain way, but all she really wanted to do was have a sacred hearth at home, and it gives me goosebumps talking about it. So so many amazing, fascinating stories that you can get from the astrology. So it's changed my life, because when I meet, it's changed how I relate to other people, because having worked with, like, I don't know how many now, but many hundreds of people, it's like, it's so humbling that each soul has this perfect plan, and if they act in, if they're not charming or whatever, if they're not, that's perfect, because that's going to be in their astrology. It's actually so compassionate. It's so compassionate and cool, and fun as well. Yeah, it's so helpful. Yeah, it's applicable. It's really applicable help.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I'm passionate about it, obviously. And I think it's like a gift of a language to help us through the game. And
I love that. Wow. Yeah, to help us through the game, for sure. 100%.
Yeah.
It also help us. I mean, my experience has helped me to understand more my boyfriend. His moon is in a water sign, my moon is in an air sign, so I want to talk about things, and he needs to just be with himself, feel the energies out, and when he's ready to talk, he's ready to talk. So the beginning of a relationship, I was like, why can't you just talk right now? I just want to talk about these things. And then once I started looking at his chart, I was like, wow, okay, I get it. So I'm not gonna push you, I understand you more. So
it's helpful.
So amazing. Yeah, super
so helpful in intimate relationships, especially. So helpful and compassionate, and it's just so helpful to understand some of those key energy patterns in your partner.
It totally has helped me a lot too, when I looked at my chart and just understood, and I was like, wow, that definitely did happen. One of the things that said in my chart was that it was, my gifts were going to come through the moment that I really honor my physical body. And and I suffer from bulimia and anorexia for over 20 years and completely hated my body, and so when I started to go back into honoring the body and loving it, and asking it for forgiveness too, then all these things started to come up, like my gifts, having that compassion for myself and others, the self-love. It was just super life-changing. And so I read that after all that was happening, and I was like, wow, the power that holds for us if we surrender to that wisdom, there's so much information there that can be super helpful for each of us.
Yeah, there is. It's available. Yeah, it's available if we look. Yeah, and that's one language where it's really available.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It moves the game along faster.
Yes.
And it's not just about speed, but it's like, well, we're not here just to muck around. We're here to evolve. So I'd like to have as many experiences as possible in the lifetime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. It's so good.
I know. It's cool. It's cool. And it's super fun too.
Yeah, it totally is. Oh my gosh, it totally is.
Yeah.
The sky is such a, when I look at the sky, is also like a mirror of ourselves. There's something inside of us. I love to look at the sky and the elements and understand and feel that that's not just outside of me, it's also inside of me, that's also happening inside. So how can I use that information to help me through this game, like you were saying?
Yeah, it is. We're one with that. And it's like in astrology, when I had this, it's a kind of a head, you have to go to your right brain or your feeling to integrate it. But it's like where the planets aren't doing an energy pattern to us, we are the energy pattern. And it's actually, you cannot go there with the left brain, because I always get myself into like a head spin about it. But I keep coming back to it because it's so fascinating. Yeah. So we are those energy patterns playing out, and the planets can show us more about what's happening, but we are them. It's amazing. It's a super like moving energy, and we can get more information about it from the planets, but we are the planets.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You're talking my language.
Yeah.
Because there's magic. A lot of times where like super magic. There's a lot of times where like, there's like, oh, Mercury's in retrograde, and oh my gosh, like we're just going down, and I'm like, I think it's happening for a really important reason, like to just go inwards too. And so, I love what you just said. That's so powerful. Wow.
Yeah, I love thinking about that. When there's a gnarly transit coming up, like you say, like there might, you're going to get hit up if you understand and believe. As an astrologer, I know if there's some hectic Saturn transit coming, and it's like, no, I am the energy. Yeah. So and you can ride the waves, like it doesn't have to. Some of them will be hectic, but mostly if you know about it, it's such a self. You can go, oh yeah, that's that. Okay, what does Saturn want from me? Oh, he wants maturity and perseverance and hard yards. Okay, and just flow along. Good information.
Yeah, like riding the wave and becoming the wave.
Yeah. Realizing that we're the wave. Yeah.
I love that. Do you have any courses or anything that you're guiding people through that besides reading their charts?
No, I don't teach any astrology. The part of astrology that I'm sort of starting to become interested in, that kind of thing, is the Lilith energies in astrology, because it combines the greater knowledge of astrology and or the 10 years as a practitioner of experience that I've got, and brings in, because in astrology we have the 3 Lilith energies, and they can really help you understand your own Lilith energies and that part of the feminine within you that's been exiled, and normally they're causing some havoc, and until they're screaming out to be honored and heard and integrated. And so I'm starting to think about, I'm doing Lilith readings. I've only just started off of those, and I'm becoming interested in maybe developing something to share and teach about that. But there's plenty of astrology. There's so much astrology out there that I don't feel pulled to doing like it would have to have some of these nuances of my story that I want to share, and that's Lilith.
It feels so like you, honestly.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. So how will that help others to understand the 3 energies of Lilith as you're doing a reading to them?
They would have to really work back with with me, which any good reading involves anyway. It's got to be a two-way street. And I always say to people, just butt in, just like say anything that comes to mind. It's like because we go down the rabbit hole together. And so that anyone who wanted to work with Lilith, well, it's just like it sort of sets like a framework for, and put some information and some sort of almost left brain information around it, and then within that you can start to like dig in and get into the feeling, and then you start getting the goosebumps, and you crack into it. So it's like, yeah, the parts of your feminine where you've been ashamed, there's so much shame, and there'll be different nuances to how the Lilith energy is, and the astrology can help you. That's what I mean, give you that framework. So some Lilith is known as like super sexual, but often the sexuality as a result of the Lilith energy being repressed will be very really repressed, unawakened, through to, it can even go perverted, all sorts of things, as it's seeking to find its true expression in a world where for the last 6,000 years it has not been welcome.
Right, yeah.
And not just sexuality, but rage, and definitely shame, feelings of shame, disempowerment, feeling that helpless, so you give up because you don't have a strong voice. That feeling, I think most women know it, and I'm sure many men too, but it's like, it's better to comply because it's so painful to be unheard and dismissed and rejected. It's so painful to not have power that I'm not even going to try, and I'm going to kid myself and comply and be like, I'm a good girl, which is the Eve in shadow, because it's safer, and it probably literally saved our lives many lifetimes, and for some women this lifetime, but pretty much time's up on that. So that's all your Lilith energy. Wow. And she's back. I mean, even just talking about it, I'm just ripped in light. She's so, it's an archetypal, more than archetype, because that sounds a bit left brainy. It's a sacred feminine energy that is now due back into full awareness and integration. And if you don't, she'll make trouble. Like, Shadow Lilith is very challenging. You can get sick, especially with the feminine organs and all sorts of things. Wow. So, I love working with Lilith energy. We all carry her. You can have different languages for it, but this is one language, and this is the one that I use. And astrology sort of just sets you going off on a path with the information. It's a real masculine feminine balance, because you get the structure of the information and engage your left brain, and then from there you start to dive in with the feminine.
Amazing. Wow, I'm just like super interested to all of these things that you're just
you would love it.
I was like, wow, yes, tell me more.
It's super juicy and super alive, and so exhilarating to speak with some power, or like your own power, and find that. And also that she's gentle as well. That's what I've really learned. And she's not what the projections and labels have been. I've really realized that she's not she's not what others want her to be, or that she's some like either a demon or a hyper sexy, like, like she's who she is, and she does not necessarily have those forms. And that's what I've really learned. And she can really enjoy being on her back, because, she's famous that she's always on top. And no, the true Lilith sexuality, my soul has shown me, because for a while I thought, that's wrong, but no, the true Lilith will fully receive when there's a respectful and beautiful interaction with the masculine, and that can include being on her back, starfishing, in complete feminine surrender. She is not one thing. I really feel passionate that we mustn't project what and I think probably quite a patriarchal pattern onto Lilith. She will not have it. She is who she is, and within you she has certain nuances, and she doesn't have to be a certain way.
I feel like she's speaking really loudly through you in a really amazing way.
I do too. So I feel honored to, as a in a human experience, to carry the voice of Lilith, as many do. We all do, but
What a beautiful gift you're giving us, honestly, with your book, with these transmissions, with the astrology work. Oh, wow, it's so divine. Thank you for everything that you have been doing.
Thank you so much for seeing that. And acknowledging it. Yeah.
Because sometimes we don't really see it, you know, and then when we speak our truth and somebody else witnesses it, is like, wow, like
That's it.
thank you
Until
for
it's witnessed.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It really is a big, alchemy happens when you get witnessed.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
So thank you for
sure.
witnessing me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Oh my goodness, what a beautiful chat. I love this. I love this.
Me too. That's good. Me too.
Yeah. So Melanie, how can people reach out to you? How can they get your book? Can you give us a little bit of that information too?
Sure. So my website is melaniedufty.com, and I'm on Instagram, Melanie_Dufty11. And my book is available on any retailer, any online retailer. You can ask in any bookshop worldwide, and they'll get it in within a few days. It's in that system. And all the big online retailers. And I really hope that all those who are fascinated by the Lilith energy, feel called to hear her story through this particular expression. And readings, if anyone's interested in astrology, that's all through my website or Instagram.
Amazing. And I have to say one more time, I 1,000,000,000% recommend this book, honestly.
Thank you.
It's so good.
Thank you so much. I love it as well.
Yeah, we all do too, sister. We all do too.
Thank you so much. I hope Lilith does. I think she does.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, Melanie, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you for being here. And again, thank you for all you do in this amazing book and the astrology. And I look forward to hear more about all this, the Lily energy with the astrology combined. Keep us posted, please.
Yes. Absolutely will do. Thank you so much, Rukmani. I love talking to you. Thank you for all that you give and all the new ideas and inspirations that I get every time I talk to you. So thank you.
Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. And thank you everybody for tuning in. All the information is below, so you can just do a little click and get a hold of Melanie. And again, I super recommend this book. And we'll see you next time. Have a beautiful day.
Bye.